Well, hello good people of the internet, particularly good people of my Patreon, my patrons. This is the first question and answer video that I do as part of the Patreon campaign, whatever it's called, the Patreon page, where every month, if you're a patron, you can ask me questions on anything, relatively speaking, or themes or topics or whatever you want me to talk about. So we've only had a couple of questions this time, so I don't know how long this will be, but so next time, get your questions in early, and we'll see. I don't know the answers to everything or even most things, but I'll certainly give you my opinion if I have one, or point you in the right direction if I don't. So, first question. This is from Belinda, who says, I was going to ask if you've done much shadow work before, and if so, in what way? By that I mean using meditation, tarot. Also, I was curious, you said in your first bookshelf video about Wiccan influences, so yes, I'd like to hear more about that. Okay, so shadow work, and this is coming out of the fact of the 40 Shadows being the new deck and the new system I'm working on. And I've done quite a lot of shadow work over the last while, but not really in any kind of formal way, which is why I wanted to do the 40 Shadows, to come up with some sort of system that would work for me and hopefully work for other people, that would enable you to have some sort of direction or some sort of pointers on how to do these things. Because I did it fairly haphazardly, where I was just, questioning myself, or just trying to find out things about myself. Without any roadmap, or without, that kind of thing. So the 47s in some way would be a system and a roadmap. I'll come back to that later, because there is a question about what exactly are the 47s. So the type of shadow work that I did was mostly it was about the role I played, or the archetypical shadow I was playing was the victim, and not the victim in that something, not the wounded, or not the victim in something has happened and you are the victim, but victim in playing the victim, in making yourself the victim. And of course I didn't realise this, because you can't, because you think you are a victim, and you think the world or the universe is, or life is out to get you, or treating you unfairly. Maybe out to get you, maybe treating you unfairly, but more than everyone else, particularly me, or particularly you, if you're playing the victim, that it's out to get you. And there's kind of a martyr complex in that as well too. That but I'll go into the story, which is, so I was trying, I knew there was some sort of block, I was some sort of reason why things weren't working out. And I decided that rather than it being life, which I don't know why this decision came about, life, I would look and see, what is it I'm doing? What am I bringing to this that is making, because it was the whole time that my magic wasn't really working. And it kind of felt like I was, like there was this grand hall. This is the image in my head, and inside was everyone, and we're all at the magic party, and we're having a great time, and our magic was working, and everyone was working out, and we're having these great experiences, and great kind of insights, and magic was wonderful and all that. And I was outside, looking in the window at these people, going, why can't I be in there? Because my magic didn't work. I didn't have the experiences people were talking about, and I didn't have the successes or the stories that people had. And it came to the kind of feeling that, one, people are either making stuff up, which most people are, not most people, a lot of people are. Two, I've been treated unfairly, purposely punished almost by life for some reason. Or three, there's something I'm doing wrong and bringing to the game. So that feeling of I had done something, that I was being punished or opposed, or like it kind of felt like this kind of Saturn energy in the classic sense of being opposed, or what's the word? Like kind of feeling the weight of being pushed down upon, being there is a word I can't think of it at the minute. It'll come to me. But that Saturn energy of being oppressed. That's the word. But it almost felt physical. This kind of as if it was being pushed, being held down, being held, and not being allowed to do or get, or whatever it was. It was like I had done all the things that I was meant to have done, as far as I'm concerned, like follow your bliss. So I went following my bliss and left the job I was in, and did the art and did comics and all that, and successful in many ways, but not successful in the way that I kind of wanted. In that I wanted it, well, number one, to be financially successful, to to be able to live, not like riches or anything like that, but to be able to live. So there was a lot of struggle in that, and then I wasn't for a long while making money. So that kind of felt like, but I had turned up and I had booked them and they hadn't come. You know, I had followed my bliss and the universe hadn't provided. So and you would hear stories that other people's, you know, followed the bliss and the universe provided. So it was going like, why did they get it? So it kind of moved into this victim thing of, I am deliberately not being allowed to do it. Like, I've been oppressed. I was being held back. And so, where was I going with this? So anyway, I sort of dwelled in that for a long while, feeling, you know, kind of victim-y or whatever, and I got really depressed and really sad and really down, like really bad, proper. And kind of life in many ways fell apart, and ended up on like antidepressants, which just made me absolutely suicidal. And I was drooling and twitching and sweating now, but that's because it's really warm and I'm Irish and I'm not used to the heat. Yeah, so I was like drooling and twitching and I was walking kind of funny from it, and I went back to the doctor and changed medication. That made me worse, to give me sedatives and all that, and it was just horrible. It was horrible. A couple other things happened around then that kind of made me have to change an awful lot. I was kind of social media, my social media had kind of mixed from people I knew from school, my family, people I knew from different work, like when I was in bands, or when I, you know, had done any kind of commercial work art-wise and stuff like that. And I felt that I was trying to be a kind of a different person for all these people, trying to keep them all happy online. And I wasn't any of those people, because it was like over a 20-year stretch of 15 years, whatever it was, stretch of my life, and you can't be the person you were at school and be the person you were 3 months ago in the job, and you know. So I found that very stressful, and that kind of accumulated or culminated in my comic, my last one that I did, which is Them, which is a guy whose inner voices and his the thoughts and the things that he's been told by other people or whatever start getting a physical manifestation in his life and start coming after him, which is the Them of the title. So that's what it felt like. It felt like there was all these voices screaming at me and stuff round, in a very kind of real, not real in a physical sense. It felt real, but like, I mean, I wasn't hearing voices or anything like that, but that's what it felt like. This oppressed, everyone was coming in. So I deleted all my social media. Had to get rid of all that and was going to disappear for a while. You can read more about all this kind of thing in the HYPERSIGIL write-up I did on Them, which I'll link in below, which explains all this a bit more. So anyway, to actually get to your question about what the shadow work did, was number one, I did that HYPERSIGIL of Them, which was, I created a character who was past the point of where I wanted to be, and then started the comic with him getting that, and then seeing the letter open to see how we got there. And that worked very successfully. But the other thing, how I came to know about the victim stuff and all that, was that I just kept asking myself over and over for like 3 days or something, that what is it? What is it that's coming back? What is this the thing? And it starts off, and the only way I can describe this, I could feel like off in the distance like a train or something coming, but it was very far away, very far away. And over the course of 3 days, as I kept asking myself, I'd get a revelation about something in my past, and then I'd ask the question, why did I do that? Or what was that about? What was behind that? And I kept asking these questions until I got back and back. And the whole while I could feel like the weight of this train coming at me the whole time. Closer and closer and closer, as I was delving deeper into these questions or these ideas, where I'd get to one point and that would lead to another point, and I would get great understanding, but I knew I hadn't got to the crux of it, or the early part, you know, the beginning of it or whatever. And eventually I was lying in bed on the third day. I think it was 3 days, it could be 4 days, could be 2 days. It seemed 3 days seems what it seemed like. And I could feel the train was really close, really close, and then kept asking questions, kept pushing it, and I just waved all over me, sudden realization of what it was. And some of the things that came in that moment were things like, instead of standing up for myself, I would, if say someone did something that, or said something to me, or made me wanted me to do something, rather than say no, I don't want to do that, I'd do it, but in such a way that I would try to get them to see how much pain and hurt they had caused me by doing this from them. Look what you've done to me. And that was my mantra. That was what I was getting back to. Look what you've done to me. The martyr thing, the victim thing. Look what life has done to me. You know, I'm suffering because of all of what you have. Like, whoever you is out there, get what you want. And I'm the one who has to suffer because of it. I'm the one behind it. Get it. And when I realised that, number one, it's horrible because, you know, that's not good. But two, once you realise it, once you see these things, you can't go back. There's no way. You can't do that again because you know what it is. You recognise that. And as soon as I started doing it, it's like, you just can't do that. So it deletes the pattern in a sense. But it doesn't delete it because you see it, but you just stop doing it. You stop replicating it each time. So it's just then delved into the whole victim thing of that I was basically... it was easier for me only talking about myself. Your mileage may vary. It was easier for me to be a victim than to be a success because I could blame other people. It's, look what you're doing to me, look at how I'm suffering. It made me kind of feel important, maybe, not so much. Yeah, it just made me feel a bit more, it's powerful is the word, but it's not because you obviously don't feel powerful. It's that you don't have to take responsibility because you were a victim. You have someone to blame. Things didn't work out for me or for whatever because other people didn't let me. It's not that I wasn't good enough or I didn't do whatever had to be done, whatever. It's because I wasn't allowed, that I was being oppressed. I did everything I could do. Everyone else, all you didn't put up with, you know, you didn't do your half. And I wasn't really probably doing my thing either. So I'm a bit rambling down the mix. I haven't thought about this in a while. But yeah, that's certainly in the shadow work was realising the victim game I was playing. Look what you've done to me, the martyr game. And kind of a couple of other revelationary things there about just how shitty and assholic of a person I was being to people in relation. Like blaming... a lot of the things I had issues with life were actually the opposite. In that, like say, blaming family for certain things, for lack of closeness, when it was me who wasn't close to them. I would think like, oh, they're not close to me, they don't love me, they don't care, and you know, in a deep level or whatever. But it was me who was pushing them away, and I could see that. And this all came in like a train, and it felt the train metaphor came with it. So I don't understand that, but it worked, and I'm happy enough with seeing it as a train. So then after that, not long after that, everything changed, because once I seen the pattern, once I seen the thing, I could get out of it. I could no longer play that record. I removed that pattern and moved on to the next stuff, and you know, you get on it. So that's the major shadow work I've done recently, which probably all started from the HYPERSIGIL of them, from that moment of creating that and stopping that. And it's still that working is still playing a role. I had thought it didn't work because it doesn't work, you know. I did my best and it still didn't work, all that stuff, but it did. It 100% did, and it's still working. So I'd suggest if you want to know more of that, read the blog about the, it's like a 5-part blog about that comic, graphic novel, or whatever word you want to use it, and buy it. It's like $3 on Amazon if you want to read it. So yeah, lots of shadow work stuff, I was saying, fairly haphazardly and without an actual roadmap or a meditation or some way to do it. Now the Wiccan influence, I don't have a huge Wiccan influence because I never really gelled with it. I kind of first came across any sort of Wiccan ideas is when I was hanging around with some druids in my mid-20s, probably maybe early 22, 23. And they kind of had a fairly Wiccan influence, you know, there was a lot of that kind of thing, and I just didn't understand what it was. It seemed that, and they couldn't explain it to me. It seemed to be some sort of goddess worship within nature thing, but like, it's just, if I'd asked them questions and I was going like, well, what? They would say, oh, I work with Morrigan, or the Morrigan, and I go, what does that mean? What's that look like? And it didn't look like anything that they actually did, other than say that's what they worked with. And I'm not sure if that's them just not want to explain it to me, or me not understanding it at the time, or maybe just didn't know. But I didn't get it. It just seemed this kind of a worshipping of nature and femininity to the decline of the real life was bad. And it reminded me a bit of Catholicism in that whole thing of that you have to shun the real world. You know, this isn't the real world, and your real world is your life after and all that. And I had a similar aspect to that, and I kind of went, that's still a guilt thing, shame thinking on that my day-to-day life isn't good, you know, that it's the thing to be avoided, it's the thing to move away from. And I was going, I didn't. Now, I know that isn't totally Wicca and all that. The next kind of time, I just was reading books and stuff about it then a couple of years later. And it just didn't sit with me in that I don't have the huge connection or of nature in the way that you have to be a Wiccan, or of the Lord and the Lady or the thing. It just didn't sit with me. It didn't tick the things I wanted ticked on. It didn't give me insights and anything. It seemed like another incomplete path. It didn't seem integral. It didn't seem rounded. It seemed like this bit is bad, this is good. You know, like gun is good, whatever, that line from Zardoz. But yeah, so it just seemed incomplete, and it didn't, and that emphasis on do no harm, or no, ain't no harm, and do what they want and all that, the kind of bastardization of the Crowley thing. Again, there's judgment and thing, and I my search out of growing up Catholic was to get away from that, and it seems equivalent in different ways, different judgments, possibly different packaged. In the same way, when I hung out with the Hare Krishnas for a while, they were cool and all. I had the same judgments, different way, different aesthetics, same kind of idea. And that's what I got from Wicca. Now, that's what I got from Wicca from the books I read and the people I was around. And I don't have a huge experience, or I don't have a huge background in it. So I'm not judging Wicca in general or witchcraft or anything like that. That's just my experience. It didn't work for me. People get huge value out of it and love it, and don't find any of those things that I found in it. So more power to them. Okay, so another question from Belinda. I'd like to hear about the process, the whole chicken and the egg thing. Which comes first, the sigil or the image for the servants? Does it all flow naturally, or do you get artist block and have mega or mini tantrums? If there are tantrums, could we get videos showing these? And she's only half kidding about that. It depends on the servant which comes first. Sometimes it will be, I will know there's a need for a type of servant. Like say, of course mine goes blank. It's the fortunate. It wasn't the case with the fortunate, but the thing, like I knew there had to be some sort of positive prosperity thing in it. So I know you could work it out that way. Or the depleted, or something like that, you know, or I kind of knew that was an element that needed to be in the thing, so I'd work from that and it would come out of that. Other things came from an atmosphere or a colour or an idea, and that then eventually shaped into something else, you know, into the final thing. Some of them, the names got changed. The guru was originally called the teacher, the witch was called the magician, and a few others like that. But sometimes it comes with an idea, like at the minute I'm working on one in the Fourth Shadows, and it's about sorrow and depression and sadness, and that's definitely, it was an atmosphere that came first, and then that filled in the picture of a woman, you know, the crying woman in a stone background beside water, and this dark thing, and that kind of is an atmosphere or something it came to me in thing. So that came first. 99% of the time the sigil is the last thing that comes, and it's the thing I think about least purposefully, so that it's just, I don't want to think too much about it, so it just comes out. And a lot of them seem relevant, you know, they kind of came similar to what the actual thing was about. They look similar to it. but I didn't want to get in the way of it at all. I wanted to what's the word? Just let it come through and not think about it. So it was always the last case thing. Apart from the actual sigil, what was the very first thing that's been around for years? The one that turned into the unifying sigil, the middle bit of that. So of course, yeah, tantrums. I'm very tantrumatic at times. There's a very kind of thing that happens to me, and I think it's kind of a mercurial in nature, in that I'll have days where the physicality of the world doesn't seem to work in my favour. In fact, it would work in the opposite, in that things won't sit right on, like, you put a book on the shelf and lean it away from you and it will still fall towards you, or things will fall, things will spill and all that kind of thing. So then on days like that, I just can't draw at all, because it doesn't work. I don't know what that is, and I've don't know if other people experience it in the same way I do, but it's just that the physicality of the world, the physics of the world seem to be against me, and on those days I'm useless. So I'll do something else, like, well, fix the website, or do something that doesn't involve too much. But yeah, I do have tantrums, and I do shout at the screen or at inanimate objects when I get annoyed. Less so than I used to, but it's still something. It's I could blame it on the artistic temperament, but again, that's not taking responsibility for it. It's passion, I suppose, and when it doesn't go wrong, it probably echoes back to what I was saying about the shadow work, of that I feel this has been done to me purposefully to stop me doing what I want. So that's mostly, I'm aware of it and all that, but it's still going to throw up every now and again, and will throw up in this mercurial physicality. Something is out to oppress things, which is probably more Saturniness than mercurial, but I don't know. It is what it is. Next one from Belinda. There's only one other person who asked questions other than Belinda, so it's going to be Belinda or Robbie. So, Linda says, I was just saying how much I enjoyed the 40-day working, which ended up making the servants more personal and understandable to me. We were also talking about the elemental aspect and how it adds yet another dimension, which in my eyes is a good thing. Do you do that when you're working with a particular servant? I mean, add in the elemental aspect. Like for the servants corresponding with fire, for example, do you offer red candles, or do you working at midday, etc.? Kind of do some sort of time and stuff. More planetary hours, planetary days. So doing stuff with the Fortunate would probably work much better on a Thursday because of the Jupiterian influence on a thing. But the elemental attributes for me are more a way of finding it's more of a map. For how the cards lay out and what they are, what their natures are, or what. So I'm aware of them, but it makes it just more clear rather than I use them in a practical sense. In that, if it's an earth element, which the mother say is an earth element, they probably would work better with other earth kind of element things, but it expands the meaning of the card, and it makes the understanding of the servant more rounded and more complete for me by knowing its home or where it comes from or whatever, or what earth represents, and it can give me greater insight into, say, the mother than just what the idea of the mother would. So it's rather than actually using it in the sense of doing the candles or different coloured candles or offerings and that, I wouldn't use that, but I mean, totally would work in that way. Like, if that's what you choose, it's just not something. I don't tremendously work with elements. Although I do think it's a great way to look at things, because it can show you very quickly an imbalance in your life, if you just want to take it that way. In that, say you are, you're good with people like you, you're good at talking, you're good at thinking, you're good at or whatever, and you've good passions, whatever. So you can kind of go, yeah, I'm good at that, but I've no money. and then or I can't keep a job, or I've no stability, then you know that your focus should be on earth, because you're pretty good in the other places, or spirit, or whatever way. So I know where I'm miming this isn't going to line up with yours. So, or if you think that I've gone too far into intellect and thinking and rationality and that sort of stuff, you can go, I need to pull back over and involve some more of these elements. Just in that that's how it's grouped, and it works in that way. So it's, if you felt that you were being too intellectual or too rational, whatever, rather than trying to say banish the thinker servant, you could bring it in more water type stuff and work with them to increase that bit in your life, rather than diminish or deplete the actual thing you want. If that makes sense. Because if you remove something from your life, you have to replace it with something else. Or it's like if you give up smoking or drink, whatever, but you've nothing to replace that, then it's very certain you're going to go back, because you're not filling the void where it is. So if you just banish rationality and don't bring in stuff like the seer or whatever, or the other things, the other elements to replace that, then you're just going to fall back into the rational things, whatever. So yeah, hope that answers your question. So the final one from Belinda is, how parents have a favourite child even though they don't. Do you have a favourite servant? Not necessarily one you use the most, but a secret favourite, and what makes it so? The art, and what does it represent to you? I don't at all. It depends on who I use. It largely depends on what's going on or what I'm trying to do or whatever. The healer gets used a lot because we're physical creatures and shit goes wrong all the time physically. When my cat was sick, the healer was there an awful lot, and I find that a very soothing kind of idea and presence and stuff. Even in the very mundane sense of, I know I can do nothing about the health of my cat, say, at the time, because I'd done everything I could, like vets and all this, and there's nothing to do. And if there was no magic involved with it, dealing with the healer or whatever makes you feel that you're still doing something. It's just this thing that people have thoughts and prayers and all that to give out to it, and I understand that type of thing, but there's a psychological fact of doing that I can't, like say, I can't do anything, but I can do this thing, and it it stops a certain thing, it relieves you, and it relieves a burden or whatever. I'm doing the best I can, and I do definitely think that mental states affect reality like ridiculously. They definitely affect mine. Your mileage may vary. My thoughts create things, and in a very new agey kind of way, I'm hesitant. It does seem to affect. Definitely, bad form will increase that mercurial physicality thing that I was talking about earlier on. No doubt that happens. So even if getting the stress or the relief or the burden taken off you slightly, without even thinking of a woo-woo effect, on a healing thing, I think that has great which I think is a lot to do with the placebo. You stop stressing about something, you've stopped worried about it, you've let go, you've accepted, you've stopped resisting. And I think that's when you allow things to be healing. So even if you don't accept the servitor magic element of the healer, or any of them, I think there's a very cathartic release of a burden can be sought or got by doing a simple thing like lighting a candle for someone, making an offering to the healer, or that kind of thing. So totally went off on a tangent and didn't answer your question whatsoever. But I've no favourites. Have I any I don't like? There's some I'm not massively drawn to, and which would be ones that you would assume I should be, because that would bring me to shadow stuff. Like the one that's in my head is the thinker. It's because I have a kind of an opposition to the neo-atheist, the Dawkins type stereotype person, the over-rational, the too rational, So that's probably something I should look at, because it's something that wouldn't draw me. And there was like people who get, actually Autumn recently, was saying to me that she had an adverse reaction to the protests because it reminded her of social justice workers and stuff. And I can get, so there's, you can certainly, a dislike should be looked at, I think. So, but I don't dislike the thinker. So, but it's just the one that came to mind. If when I asked the question, is there any I dislike? I don't think there's any other ones. So, no. I'll look at the thinker though, and see why that came up. Now, Robbie has said, sorry, phase that there for a minute. Robbie has, talking about the 40 Shadows, says, have we got a broad stroke picture of the project yet? And probably not, in the sense of that I've given bits and pieces, but never in a probably a complete thing. The idea of the 40 Shadows, I can see that happening a lot, is that while the 40 Servants was the divination and the magic, the 40 Shadows is divination and a kind of meditation or journeying type system, because we have the magic, we're okay, we're covering the thing, so there's no point in another magic deck, which would be just overlap or more or less the same thing. So while you have the options of the 40 Servants to get things, or working things now, but this is working more on yourself, to become a better person. It's like that thing I said before, but it's cool to invoke Dionysus so you're cool at parties, so that you're able to go to it, as long as you're working on being the person who doesn't need to invoke Dionysus to go to parties and to be ahead of parties. So it's great to do all this 40 Servant stuff, and it works on the condition that you're on your way to becoming the person who doesn't need magic. I mean, I think ultimately that's my goal, is that I want to be a person who doesn't need magic in the sense of getting stuff or getting other things to do things because you don't have the ability right now to do it. In like asking a grimoire spirit to bring you money, or to get you, asking Ganesha to open a road for you, or the road open to road, to remove an obstacle, because you can't do it. But my goal is to become the person who can do it, who can remove his own obstacles without having to rely. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but the intersectionary magic could become a crutch, ultimately. So the 40 Shadows is about working on yourself, getting through your own things, so you become the person who is much more powerful in your own right, and much more stable, much more rounded. On your way, it's a system, in a sense, of how to become the master from the 40 Servants. And it will involve, there's a thing called a session, which is going to be, but this is all how it is now. Like, I mean, it's subject to change, because I've opened it up how my creative process works or whatever. So, I mean, this could all change, but this is where it is at the minute. And like 47s did change as it went along. It's just now you're going to see these things. So it's this thing called a session, which starts off with a guy called, you see it? The Analyst, and there's a preview of his sigil. I haven't shown that before. And names also subject to change, because I'm not totally gone on that. But he's going to be the guy, he's like the saint in the 47s. He's going to be the intercessioner. He's going to be the guy who brings you to these other worlds that you're going to hang out with and find out about these other, about the shadows, about your shadow self. Now, the shadows aren't all bad, because, the light of one thing, you need the light of one thing to cast a shadow and the other thing, and that shadow's light itself will cast the other thing. So what I mean by that is that you have to have happiness to know sadness, and you have to have sadness to know happiness. So you need both. So it's not all bad. Like, you can be journeying to the world of happiness, or you can journey to the world of sadness. So here we have the big golden door, and then the session is going to be an audio meditation that we will be part of, like a download and thing, where you start off like maybe on the street and you go down steps, that kind of traditional thing, and then you end up in this office with this guy. And then the sigil of who you're going to journey to will appear on the door, and you'll go through this golden door into blackness with a white, like the near that tunnel space, and you'll travel through that tunnel into the world of one of the shadows, all accompanied to the theta drum beat, which is probably a bit faster than that. We worked all that out. So the proper journeying thing of, the journey, the shamanic drum thing, The whole thing lasts about 20 minutes, and you'll go to the world as suggested by the art on the card. Journey there, and you can journey there in two ways. You can journey there as the shadow, so you can invoke or you can evoke to talk to the shadow. So you can go and be, say, the sorrow, depression. You go and feel the depression, feel the thing, feel what it's trying, like feel the atmosphere, feel the whole thing, and try and, like I did with my victim martyr stuff, try and work out where it's come from. What is the actual thing that you're saying? Which in my case was, look what you're doing to me. So when you invoke, say, the sorrow, or whatever we shall call it in the end, you can ask these questions. Now, if you go the other way and evoke, you can talk, and see what happens if they have a message to you. It's not a new meditative or journeying idea by any stretch, but I think by having so many shadows and by having the audio and the meditative thing, that it'll work well. I think it'll work well. And then obviously you come back through the thing. You talk to the analyst a bit to explain. So he's the grounding influence. He's the whole thing. So he'll explain, recap what you've learned, and then you go things. About 20 minutes, we'd say, maybe longer. So that's just one, the session, the thing. The other one is, of course, there'll be the divination element of it as well, which, and just general meditation stuff on it. Now, the issue I have, of course, is if you have 40 shadows and one of them is the analyst, it's not really 39 shadows, which is true. So then you're going to have a journeying aspect to the analyst or the counsellor or the therapist, whatever his thing. So he'll have a session on his own that will just be like a counselling session where you can go and talk to him. But he also needs a counter as well. So the counter of, say a therapist or a counsellor or talking out your things is, like the mute, the quiet, the person who keeps it all in to explode. So there's that kind. That is one of the things I have to work out, and that'll work out. Like you have to have faith in that, and these things do work out in the way that when you don't get in the way of these things, to do work out. So a meditation, journey in plus divination, as opposed to the 47's divination and magic, because we've done that. Let's, get some new tools, get some other stuff as well. So that was all the questions, and I still managed to get nearly 40 minutes of yapping out of me. Tangents are a wonderful thing and can get you extra mileage out of questions. So if you want to get in on this, you can go to tommykelly.com, which is TYMMIE, and that gets you to the Patreon, and from $1 a month you get these videos and stuff. So that's the lowest you can. Well, I think you could probably do less, but you don't get any rewards. I don't know, but $1. And then from $5 onwards, you get more access to the 40 shadow stuff, like the artwork as we're going along and stuff. The $1, you just get the video and, say, podcasts and other videos before everyone else does. Check out adventuresinwoo.com. You have, of course, or you wouldn't be here. Podcast, Facebook, all those things I say at the end of everything. You know them. It's all good. But hope that was cool. If not, ask different questions or suggest a theme or something to talk about for the next one. And thank you all, wonderful, wonderful people, for giving me this opportunity to do this. And I hope I can, by sharing the creative process and my thoughts and ideas, that one, it becomes, a better system out of it, and two, it might inspire you to do something, and three, that, peace, love, and good happiness stuff, as Steve Weiss is. Okay. Namaste.